Hello once again, and welcome to Chapter 10 of The Magician's Nephew. You will remember that at the end of Chapter 9, Aslan had called Narnia awake. Narnia, 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 he called. Awake, love, think, speak. Be walking trees, be talking beasts, be divine waters. Wonderful words. It was, of course, the lion's voice. The children had long felt sure he could speak, and yet it was a lovely and terrible shock when he did. Out of the trees, wild people stepped forth, gods and goddesses of the woods. With them came fauns and satyrs and dwarfs. Out of the river rose the river god with naiad daughters. And all these and all the beasts and all their birds, in their different voices, high or low or thick or clear, replied, "Hail, Aslan, we hear and obey. We are awake, we love, we think, we speak, we know." "But please, we don't know very much yet," said a nosy and snorty kind of voice. And that really did make the children jump, for it was the cab horse who had spoken. "Good old Strawberry," said Polly. "I am glad he was one of the ones chosen to be a talking beast." And the cabbie, who was now standing beside the children, said, "Strike me pink, I always did say that horse had a lot of sense, though." "Creatures, I give you yourselves," said the strong, happy voice of Aslan. "I give you to forever, I give you forever this land of Narnia. I give you the woods, the fruits, the trees, the rivers. I give you the stars, and I give you myself. The dumb beasts who I have not chosen are yours also. Treat them gently and cherish them, but do not go back to their ways, or you will cease to be talking beasts. For out of them you were taken, and into them you can return. Do not so." "No, Aslan, we won't," said everyone. But one perky jackdaw said in a loud voice, "No fear," and everyone else had finished just before he said it, so that his words came out quite clear in a dead silence. Maybe you found out how awful that is, say, at a party. The jackdaw, which is another word for a crow, became so embarrassed that it hid its head under its wing as if it were going to sleep. And all the other animals began making various queer noises, which are their way of laughing, which of course no one has ever heard in our world. They at first tried to repress it, but Aslan said, "Go ahead and laugh, and don't be afraid, creatures. Now that you are no longer dumb and witless, you need not always be grave. For jokes as well as justice come with speech." And so they all let themselves go. And there was such merriment that the jackdaw himself plucked up courage again and perched on the cab horse's head between its ears, clapping its wings, and said, "Aslan, Aslan, did I make the first joke? Will everyone always be told how I made the first joke?" "No, little friend," said the lion, "you have not made the first joke. You have been the first joke." And everybody laughed at that more than ever. But the jackdaw didn't mind, and he laughed just as loud, till the horse shook his head, and the jackdaw lost its balance and fell off, but remembered its wings, they were still new to it, before it reached the ground. "And now," said Aslan, "Narnia is established. We must next take care of keeping it safe. I will call some of you to my council. Come hither to me, Chief Dwarf, and you, River God, and you, Oak, and the He-Owl, and both the ravens, and the Bull-Elephant. We must talk together. For though this world is not 5 hours old, evil has already entered it." The creatures he had named came forward, and he turned away eastward with them. The others all began talking, saying, "What did he say has entered the world? An evil? What's a nevil?" "No, he didn't say Nevil, he said Weevil." "Well, what's that?" "Look here," said Diggory to Polly. "I've got to go after him. Aslan, the lion. I must speak to him." "Do you think we can?" said Polly. "I wouldn't dare." I've got to, said Diggory. It's about Mother. If anyone could give me something for her, it would be him.
I'll come along with you, said the cabby. I like the looks of him, and I don't reckon those other beasts will go in it for us, and I want a word with old Strawberry.
And so all three of them stepped out boldly, or as boldly as they could, toward the assembly of animals. The creatures were so busy talking to one another that they didn't notice the three humans until they were very close. Nor did they hear Uncle Andrew, who was standing trembling in his buttoned boots a good way off and shouting, but by no means at the top of his voice, "Diggory, Diggory, do come back at once when you're told. I forbid you to go another step further." When at last they were right in among the animals all stopped talking and stared at them. "Well," said the he-beaver at last, "what in the name of Aslan are these?" "Please," said Diggory in a rather breathless voice when Rabbit said, "They're a kind of large lettuce. That's my belief." "No, we're not. Honestly, we're not," said Polly. "We're not at all nice to eat." "There," said the Mole. "They can talk. Who ever heard of a talking lettuce?" "Perhaps they're the second joke," said the Jackdaw. A panther, which had been washing its face, stopped for a moment to say, "Well, if they are, they're nothing like so good as the first one. At least, I don't see anything funny about them." It yawned and went on washing. "Oh, please," said Diggory, "I'm in such a hurry. I want to see the lion." All this time, the cabby had been trying to catch Strawberry's eye, and now he did. "Now, Strawberry, old boy," he said, "you know me. You ain't going to stand there and say you don't know me." "What is the thing talking about, Horse?" said several voices. "Well," said Strawberry very slowly, "I don't exactly know. I think most of us don't know much about anything yet, but I've sort of an idea that I've seen a thing like this before. I have a feeling I lived somewhere else, or was something else, before Aslan woke us all up a few minutes ago. It's all very muddled, like in a dream, but there were things like these three in the dream."
"What?" said the cabby. "Not know me? Me, what used to bring you hot mash every evening when you were out of sorts? Me, what rubbed you down proper? Me, what never forgot to put your cloth on you or if you were standing in the cold? I wouldn't have thought of it. Wouldn't have thought it of you, Strawberry."
"It does begin to come back," said the Horse thoughtfully. Let me think. Yes, you used to tie a horrid black thing behind me and then hit me to make me run. And however far I ran, this black thing would always be coming after me."
"We had to earn our living, see?" said the cabby. "Yours the same as mine. And if there hadn't been no work and no whip, there'd have been no stable, no hay, no mash, no oats. For you did get a taste of oats when I could afford 'em, and that nobody can deny."
"Oats," said the Horse, pricking up his ears. "Yes, I remember something about that. Yes, I'm remembering more and more. You were always sitting somewhere up behind, and I was always running in front, pulling you and that black thing. I know I did all the work."
"Summer, I grant you, it was hot work for you and a cool seat for me, but what about winter, old boy? When you were keeping yourself warm and I was sitting up there with my feet like ice and my nose fair pinched off me in the wind and my hands so numb I could hardly hold the reins."
"It was a hard, cruel country," said Strawberry. "There was no grass, all hard stones."
"Too true, mate, too true," said the cabby. "An hard world it was. I always did say those paving stones wasn't fair for any horse. That's London, that is. I didn't like it any more than you did. You were a country horse, and I was a country man. Used to sing in the choir, I did, down at home, but there wasn't a living for us there." "Oh, please, please," said Diggory, "couldn't we get on? The lion's getting further and further away, and I do want to speak to him so dreadfully." Look here, Strawberry, said the cabby. This young gentleman has something on his mind that he wants to talk to the lion about. Him you call Aslan. Suppose you were to let him ride on your back, which he'd take to very kindly, and trot him over to where the lion is, and me and the little girl will be following behind. Ride? Said Strawberry. Oh, I remember now. That means sitting on my back. I remember there used to be a little one of you two-leggers who used to do that a long time ago. He used to have little hard square lumps of white stuff that he gave me. They tasted wonderful, sweeter than grass. Aye, that'd be sugar cubes, said the cabby. Please, Strawberry, begged Diggory, let me get up and get to Aslan. Well, I don't mind, said the horse. Not for once in a way. Up you get. Good old Strawberry, said the cab. Here, young'un, I'll give you a lift. And Diggory was soon on Strawberry's back and quite comfortable, for he had ridden bareback before on his own pony. Now do gee up, Strawberry, he said. You don't happen to have a little of that white stuff about you, do you? Said the horse. No, I'm afraid I haven't, said Diggory. Well, that can't be helped, said Strawberry, and off they went. At that moment a large bulldog, who had been sniffing and staring quite hard, said, Look, isn't there another one of those queer creatures over there, beside the river, under the trees? Then all the animals looked and saw Uncle Andrew, standing very still among the rhododendrons and hoping that he wouldn't be noticed. Come on, said several voices. Let's go and find out. So while Strawberry was briskly trotting away with Diggory in one direction, and Polly and the cabby were following him on foot, most of the other creatures rushed toward Uncle Andrew with roars and barks and grunts and various noises of cheerful interest. We must now go back a bit and explain what the whole scene had looked like from Uncle Andrew's point of view. It had not made at all the same impression on him as on the cabby and the children, for what you see and hear depends on a good deal on where you're standing, and it also depends on what sort of person you are. Ever since the animals had first appeared, Uncle Andrew had been shrinking further and further back into the thicket. He watched them very hard, of course. He wasn't really interested in seeing what they were doing, only seeing whether they were going to make a rush at him. Like the witch, he was dreadfully practical. He simply didn't notice that Aslan was choosing one pair out of every kind of beasts. All he saw, or thought he saw, was a lot of dangerous wild animals walking vaguely about. And he kept on wondering why the other animals didn't run away from the big lion. When the great moment came and the beast spoke, he missed the whole point, for a rather interesting reason. When the lion had first begun singing long ago, when it was quite dark, and he realized that the noise he was making was a song, and that he disliked that song very much, it made him think and feel things that he did not want to think or feel. Then, when the sun rose and he saw that the singer was a lion, only a lion, he said to himself, he tried his hardest to make believe that it wasn't singing and never had been singing, only roaring like any lion might in a zoo in our world. Of course it can't really have been singing, he thought to himself. I must have imagined it. I've been letting my nerves get out of order. Who ever heard of a lion singing? And the longer and more beautifully the lion sang, the harder Uncle Andrew tried to make himself believe that he could hear nothing but roaring. Now, the trouble with making yourself stupider than you really are is that very often you succeed. Uncle Andrew did. Soon he could hear nothing but roaring in Aslan's song. Soon he couldn't have heard anything else if he'd wanted to. And when at last the lion spoke and said, "Narnia awake," he didn't hear any of those words. He only heard a snarl. And when the beasts spoke and answered, he only heard barkings, growlings, bayings, howlings. And when they laughed, well, you could just imagine. That was worse for Uncle Andrew than anything that had happened yet.
Such a horrible, bloodthirsty din of hungry and angry brutes he had never heard in his life. Then, to his utter rage and horror, he saw that the other three humans actually walked out into the open to meet the animals. The fools, he said to himself. Now these brutes will eat the rings along with the children, and I'll never be able to get home again. What a selfish little boy that Diggory is. And the others are just as bad. If they want to throw away their own lives, that's their business. But what about me? They don't seem to think of me at all. Nobody ever thinks of me. Finally, when a whole crowd of animals came rushing toward him, he turned and ran for his life. And now anyone could see in the air of that young world, it was really doing the old gentleman good. In London, he'd been far too old to run. Now he ran at a speed which would have made him certain to win the 100-yard dash at any school in England. His coat-tails flying out behind him were a fine sight. But of course it was no use. Many of the animals behind him were swift ones. It was the first run they'd ever taken in their lives, and they were all longing to use their new muscles. After him, they shouted. Perhaps he's that Neville. Tally-ho! Cut him off! Round him up! Keep it up! Hurrah! Here's a picture of Uncle Andrew running and the animals chasing him. If I hold it like that, can you see it? How about that? There, that's pretty good. In a few minutes, some of them got ahead of him. They lined up in a row and barred his way. Others hemmed him in from behind. Wherever he looked, he saw terrors. Antlers of great elks and the huge face of an elephant towered over him. Heavy, serious-minded bears and boars grunted behind him. Cool-looking leopards and panthers with sarcastic faces, as he thought, stared at him and waved their tails. What struck him most of all was the number of open mouths. The animals had really opened their mouths to pant, but he thought they had opened their mouths to eat him. Uncle Andrew stood trembling and swaying this way and that. He had never liked animals at the best of time, usually being rather afraid of them. And of course, after years of doing cruel experiments on animals, it had made him hate and fear them even more. Now, sir, said the bulldog in his usual businesslike way, are you animal, vegetable, or mineral? That was what he really said, but all Uncle Andrew heard was, "Row." And that is the end of chapter 10. So, you'd better come back next time and we'll start reading chapter 11. Meanwhile, I hope that you all have had a wonderful time listening to the story as I have, and that we can get together soon to read chapter 11. Bye for now.